This week, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. What's for breakfast, and also what to do with the molasses that we have left over from the chocolate Guinness cake perfected. I think I may have found a way. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Old Recipe Kitchen. I'm Yvonne, and today we are going to be doing something called Anadama bread. Now, I've never heard of this before, but of course, I went to my friend, old Betty Crocker, Lost Recipes. I know what you're thinking. Yes, I do have more than one cookbook, but this one just has so many good things in it that I just couldn't resist. And so this bread, it actually comes from New England, where a fisherman was always upset that his wife was always making molasses and mush cornmeal for his dinner. So he got really upset and he decided to make his own dinner, which is probably what he should have done in the first place. And he added flour and yeast and made it bread. So at the end, he said, "Anna, damn her." So to make it more PG, it's Anadama. Okay, so this recipe is going to be split into several sections. The first part is 3/4 a cup of boiling water, along with 1/2 cup of yellow cornmeal. Have to mix that together, and then we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of butter. Make sure it's nice and soft, and 1/4 a cup of molasses. I'm going to get rid of this stuff if it kills me. The last thing that we're going to add to the first part is a teaspoon of salt. Was it a teaspoon or a tablespoon? It's a teaspoon. There you go. Teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to mix it together. All right, the second part of the recipe calls for active dry yeast. So we need 2 1/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast, or exactly 1 envelope, and you're going to dissolve that in 1/4 a cup of warm water. You're supposed to stir it until it's dissolved. Warm water, not boiling, just to make sure that the yeast gets activated. All right, so now we've got that ready. We're going to add the next part into the cornmeal mixture. It actually calls for 2 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, but you don't want to add it all at once. So for the first part, I'm just going to add 1 1/2 cup of flour and then 1 egg. Mix it together, and then I'm going to add the yeast into here. Almost done. We're adding the remaining portion of flour, and then we're going to mix it together before we add it to the loaf pan. All right, so after much trial and tribulation, I was able to mix our remaining flour into the cornmeal mixture, and now we're going to transfer it to a loaf pan. The loaf pan has been greased, and we were supposed to dust it with cornmeal. So we will add this to the loaf pan, and then we need to cover it with plastic for 1 hour and 15 minutes before it goes into the oven. All right, so we have left our Anadama bread to rise for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I think the result is pretty good. After 1 hour and 15 minutes, we have had our loaf that is risen, and it will now go into the oven for 55 minutes, 375 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, after 55 minutes, the bread is out of the oven, and I think I saved it just in the nick of time. The edges, they look like they've seen better days, but I think it's still edible. The instructions call for us to add melted butter on top as soon as it gets out, and I think this needs all the butter it can get. All right, and this is our finished result. If you like what you saw today, please subscribe and like. comment down below if there's something that you would like for us to make here in the Old Recipe Kitchen. I'm Yvonne. Until next time.